This is question number 6 of homework 4 for chapter 2. Using the supply and demand diagrams, illustrate and explain the effect of an outward shift in the demand curve on price and quantity if A, the supply curve is horizontal. So that's this part basically. When B, the supply curve is vertical. So it's right here. And C, the supply curve is upward sloping. So that's this part. And the demand curve is this blue line here. Consider the market illustrated in the figure to the right. Using a line drawing to graph a new neighbor demand curve. Label this curve D2. So let me first do this part. The question mentions it's a outward shift. So that means demand will increase. So the demand curve will shift to the right. So, and this is supposed to be the new demand curve. One good thing about this MyEconLab, the platform, is that you don't have to draw parallel lines. So as long as you draw a line which is to the right of the original demand curve, your answer will be correct. So let me, for example, obviously the new demand curve is not parallel to the original demand curve. So this is D2. And we know that the equilibrium is the intersection of the demand curve and supply curve. That's the market equilibrium. So part A, using the line drawing tool. Part 2, using the point drawing tool, indicate the new market equilibrium price and quantity with the horizontal supply curve. Label this point E horizontal. So this is the horizontal supply curve, which doesn't change. And this is the new demand curve. So their intersection determines the new equilibrium. So this is the new equilibrium. It should be right here. So that's E horizontal. Before we go on, I just want to give some intuition behind this result. So you can see that the new equilibrium compared with the original equilibrium, the price is the same, right? Price doesn't increase or decrease, stays the same. But the quantity increased a lot. And this is because here we have a horizontal supply curve. And horizontal supply curve means that back to the chapter 3 materials we studied last week about the elasticity. Horizontal supply curve means that the supply is very elastic, or more precisely, it's actually perfectly elastic. So that means the price doesn't change, but the quantity can be anything. So in this case, price doesn't change, but the demand increases. So the increase of the demand is absorbed totally by the increase of the supply, because the price doesn't adjust. So the only thing that adjusts is the quantity. So you can see the quantity adjusts a lot. And this will become more obvious when we compare the latter two results. So this is the new equilibrium, E horizontal. So 3, using the point drawing tool, indicate the new market equilibrium price and quantity with the vertical supply curve. Label this point E vertical. So this is the vertical supply curve, which doesn't change, and this is the new demand curve. So their intersection determines the new equilibrium. So this my E vertical. So again, before we move on, comparing this new equilibrium, because the original equilibrium for all three different shapes of the supply curves is the same, it's the E1. And now the new equilibrium point when the supply is vertical is E vertical is right here, but the new equilibrium point when the supply is horizontal is here. So you can see that these 2 points have very different positions. So this new V vertical. The quantity doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the price, and the price increases a lot. But when the supply is horizontal, as we just discussed, the price doesn't change. The only thing that changes or increases is the quantity. So why do we have such a difference? Because here we have a vertical supply curve, and being vertical means that the supply is perfectly inelastic, which means the quantity cannot adjust. The only thing that can adjust is the price. So when the demand increases, that increase is absorbed completely by the increase in the price rather than quantity. So the price increases a lot, and that's this effect. So finally, we have this 4 using the point drawing to indicate the new market equilibrium price and the quantity with the upward sloping supply curve. Label this point E upward. And similarly, this is the supply curve with the upward sloping, and this doesn't change. And this is the demand curve, the new demand curve. So their intersection is the new equilibrium point. So again, you don't have to be very precise on the spot regarding the equilibrium point. As long as your position is very close to their intersection, your answer will be marked as correct. So this is the E upward. So when the supply is upward sloping, so basically this situation lies between when the supply is horizontal and when the supply is vertical. And you can see the effect on the price and the quantity also lies between those two extreme cases. So now the quantity increases by some, and the price also adjusts by some. So both price and the quantity increase, but their magnitude is are both lower than the two extreme cases. So now let me check my answer. Fantastic.